sadly it could be the beginning of the last month of steel making on Teesside. Chorus's cast product plant at Redcar has only enough work until the end of the year.
Some workers only told when they arrived on shift this morning.
Sickening. She never happened. Government should have come in earlier.
No, we expected it to be this quick. Last time it was months. Today it's been hours. Didn't expect to come out late this morning and find that.
There are two parts of the steel plant which are still running, the coking ovens and the power plant, and there's enough coal to run those for the next 7 days. After that, there's no coal, there's no money to buy any coal, and it could mean lights going out here for good.
The Redcar blast furnace is almost like the dying embers of the industry now. The flickering pilot light that could go out in our lifetime.
Hello, my name's John. I'm a former employee of Redcar Blast Furnace, where I worked from 1989 to 2009. Then I started working from 2009 to 2012 at Redcar Coke Ovens. Then I went back to the blast furnace from 2012 to 2015 when it closed the Steelworks for good.
So how did you get into the Steelworks?
My brother Jimmy worked in the Steelworks. He was a foreman on the blast furnace, and it was him who introduced me to the job.
What was it like working there?
It was dirty, it was smelly, but the people who I worked with were like nothing I've ever worked with before.
Are you still in contact with some of them people?
Yeah, I'm still friends with a lot of the people on Facebook and things like that, but don't really see a great deal of the people I work with now. Obviously they've moved on, I've moved on, so we don't really keep in contact that much. So my main duties at the coke ovens was I worked on the battery top, which was where the ovens were that made the coal into coke. And part of my role was to paddle the tar that built up off the procedure down the main, cleaning the ovens, making sure that there was no build-up of coke on the insides or on the tops. And then obviously when the blast furnace reopened again, I got moved back over to the blast furnace as a machine operator. I was trained to drive 360s, bobcats, forklift trucks.
When did you find out about the first lot of closings?
Well, I'd already been made redundant the year prior to it closing. I was made redundant in 2009, and then the furnace closed the year after. So I'd already left the blast furnace and got a start on the coke ovens, and it wasn't until the year after when the blast furnace closed, so I'd already moved on prior to that.
So you said you got made redundant. What was that like for you? Obviously it must have been tough at the time finding out.
Well, obviously it's like anything else. I'd worked there for 20 years and it's the only job I'd ever really had. It was the only thing I'd ever known, and it's just the worry of, I had a young family to support and my wife. So it was just the not knowing what was going to happen, obviously, when I did get made redundant.
So then you obviously found out that you were going back there.
Yeah, well, obviously SSI came in and they were going to buy the Steelworks and reopen it again. So I'd asked if I could get transferred back over to the blast furnace, because obviously that was where I came from originally. I was working for a Harsco at the time, and they got the contract to go back and do all the maintenance to the cast house floor and whatnot, which was something that I'd been involved in previously when I worked there. So they had no problems with letting me go back. They trained me up on the machines to drive the Komatsus and Bobcats, so yeah, I went back.
You said that you made friends there. Have you got any funny stories that you'd be willing to share? I know you've told me a few, but have you got any that you could possibly say on camera?
Yeah,
Something
well,
about a cat and a fox.
oh yes, there was when I was on a night shift. We used to take the lids and put the lids up and take them off the torpedoes as they were going to and from the Steelworks. And one evening I was in the machine and I'd lowered myself down to get out of the machine, and there was a wild fox that was staring at me, and it didn't want to let me out of the machine. Every time I'd try to get out, it kept coming closer to me, so I just ended up staying in my machine for the full night shift.
And we've got a photo of the fox.
A photo of
that
the
I'll-
fox, yeah.
I can put in.
Yeah.
I think the exhibit is a crucial part of not just the Redcar's history but the entire of North East. Having the exhibition here in Redcar keeps that part of history alive. Although the exhibition has only been around for a few years, the impact it's had on the area is absolutely massive. It's great to see the young children who probably didn't even know about the huge industry that was once here on their doorstep, like learning about all the ins and outs of it. And especially to see all of the families who were either like worked there or knew people who worked there share their experiences and the stories. It just really helps to grow the legacy of like the once massive industry that was right here in Redcar. As someone who's had family work there, and it's been with me the whole of my life growing up in the area, I was shocked when I found out the news of the plant being demolished. Not having the plant in Redcar's skyline almost doesn't look right. It doesn't feel right either. I'll always remember being able to see the plant from my grandparents' window and seeing the little red blinking light at the top.
So, obviously the work schedule was 2 days on, 2 night shifts, wasn't it? Was that when
That
you had
was
the core?
at the core. No, that was when I went back to the blast furnace.
That's right.
When I started originally at the blast furnace, I was employed. I was actually staff, so we didn't really have any set hours. Some days we'd start at 8, some days at 9. If I had something on with the kids, I could go in a bit later. There was no really set times. Sometimes I'd start at 9 and finish at 1. Other times I'd start at 6 and we'd be there till 6 in the evening. So there was no set times as such. But then when I moved to the coke ovens, it was 7:30 till 4. 5 days, well, 6 days a week it was. It was like a rolling 6 days. So that was something that I had to get used to, putting full hours in at work. But then when I went back to the blast furnace, it was 2 12-hour days, 2 12-hour nights, then 4 days off. Then every 7 cycles we used to get 18 days off, so that worked out pretty good.
I always have the memory of when you'd work a night shift. Obviously we wouldn't see you on the evening, but you'd always make sure you were there in the morning to see us off to school, make us breakfast, which looking back you'd wish he was there on the night, but as we grow up I suppose you realise that he was doing it for the right reasons, so it's just a memory that you look back on now. Obviously sometimes you'd miss events like birthdays on a morning when we'd open presents, but we'd always call you on our iPads opening stuff, so it's just a memory as you grow older that you sort of cherish, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, I obviously wanted to be there as much as I could, but obviously things happened and that wasn't possible at times, but again it was just something that we had to deal with. And
another thing I remember is going to Redcar when the what would you even call it, like the protest, I suppose, when they were
yeah.
SOS Save Our Steel.
Mm-hmm.
Just a vivid memory of going down there and seeing all the families and workers that have been affected by it. It's always something that's played on my mind. I just remember it vividly.
Yeah, well, because we were a family. We all knew each other. We all knew each other's families. But at the time, I was actually obviously working at the coke ovens. So although I used to know what was going on, I didn't really play much part in it because obviously I was still working.
Yeah, but you didn't play much part, but we'd still make like efforts to go down and support it because you knew
when we could, yeah, because these were people who I'd pretty much grown up with. I'd known them all my working life really, from the age of 18 to obviously nearly into my 40s when I was made redundant. You
just remember seeing stuff. I've got like clips of when they did at the Borough Ground, the SOS and stuff like that.
Save Our Steel, yeah.
And I suppose you don't really think that it's a big deal when you're younger, but like I said about when you grow up, you sort of realise just how big of an impact and how much support we needed for the steelworks at the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, yeah, we lived through it, you know what I mean? We were living with it on a daily basis, and it wasn't nice at the time, and it's looking back now, it's still not nice now.
And obviously I don't think you've been down to the Gare and seen what's left of the steelworks there.
No.
Well, I visited it previously before I took the cameras or anything, and it's just empty. Just like it looks like a wasteland.
It is. It'll be sad to see because obviously I've got a lot of memories of being there and working there. And like I say, it'd be sad when I do go back and look.
Would you be willing to come down and see what's left of the site?
Yeah, I think I should. I think it'd maybe give me a bit of closure of that part of my life. Although I look at the time, I never thought that I would work anywhere else, but things happen. So this is some vehicle evacuation training we did off-site. Obviously, working on the blast furnace, there was a high risk of the machines catching fire. Obviously, working in the heat and molten liquid, iron and slag. So this was just a scenario that they set up just for our training, really. So they've set the machine on fire. We had a list of commands that we had to do before we evacuated the machine. We had to try and call for help. We obviously take our seat belts off, put our protective gloves on, and then we had a hood that was in the cab that we needed to put on safely, and then evacuate the machine in a calm and safe manner. So this is me in the machine now, going through all those different commands before evacuating the machine. You'll see we get out of the machine with a protective hood on. This is it now. Obviously make my way down from the machine and as safely as possible. And that's me evacuating the machine unharmed.
John with a crisp packet on his head.
This is ponding the liquid iron in the iron ponds. Occasionally, if there was an issue at the Boss plant and they couldn't take the iron that had been produced, we used to take it over to the iron ponds and tip it out, and then obviously the torpedo would go back to the furnace to be refilled again with molten iron. This is a photo of the Redcar coke ovens. This was where I worked for a couple of years, and the gentleman you can see on the photo is wearing flame retardant overalls, obviously gloves and a flame retardant hood. I think looking at him there, he's just cleaned one of the ovens. There's obviously he hasn't got it on at the minute, but he would normally wear an Airstream helmet as well with a visor.
So how did it feel going back to the plant?
It was mixed emotions really. I felt happy seeing the place again and remembering all the good times and all the special people I met, and then also sadness to see what the plant's now become, just a pile of scrap metal and rubble. And disappointed really that nothing was done to try and save the Steelworks all them years ago, so mixed emotions really.
I know you mentioned that you've started to forget where things used to be when you saw it, so...
Yeah, obviously it's just a pile of scrap now, and trying to picture in my head where the plant was and what was where, and the ponds and the blast furnace and the coke ovens, so it was strange really trying to figure out in my head what part of the plant was where.
Have you got any final thoughts about the Steelworks?
Well, it's just a part of my life that obviously that I have fond memories about. I'll never work anywhere like there again, I wouldn't think. And it's just special really, special place in my heart.
Save our steel!